Hello, dear viewers. Let's get acquainted. Write in the comments where you are watching me from. I read all the comments and respond to the interesting ones. The eerie silence of the Kremlin's underground hall was shattered by words that reportedly sent chills down the spines of even the most seasoned politicians. They've crossed the red line. Our response will be asymmetric and painful. What happened at that moment? Why did these words become harbingers of a storm that has been shaking Europe for several months now? It all began last autumn in Vilnius. The Lithuanian parliament took an unprecedented step by officially declaring Russia a terrorist state. Moreover, the deputies approved the demolition of Soviet monuments, including memorials at military burial sites. Moscow perceived this as a direct challenge. Behind closed doors, an emergency meeting of the Security Council took place. According to sources, the president's tone was ice cold. The response came like lightning, but not where expected. Instead of direct confrontation, Russia struck at the most vulnerable point of the economy. First, a crucial transit route to Kaliningrad was restricted, followed by a complete blockade of key imports from the Baltic states. "We've been thrown under the tank," a major transportation company owner bitterly remarked. In the first week of the blockade, Baltic logistics hubs lost over 50 million euros, but the main blow was yet to come. At a forum in Shanghai, Russia and China signed an agreement on a new transport corridor, completely bypassing the Baltic states. Chinese investors quietly began winding down projects in the region. The economic noose proved more terrifying than any military threat. Protests by entrepreneurs erupted in Vilnius. But this was just the beginning. What lies ahead for the Baltic states? And how will this economic chess game reshape the European landscape? Stay tuned as we delve deeper into this unfolding crisis that's redrawing the geopolitical map before our eyes. Let's pause for a moment to fully grasp the strategic brilliance unfolding before us. In the remaining segments, we'll explore how Russia's masterful use of non-military leverage has reshaped regional dynamics, examining the surprising economic impact on the Baltic states, and uncovering the sophisticated diplomatic mechanisms that Moscow deployed with surgical precision. The Kremlin's economic response demonstrates remarkable strategic foresight. By redirecting transit flows toward its own ports in Ust-Luga and Murmansk, Russia has not only strengthened its infrastructure, but also significantly impacted Baltic port revenues. This move showcases Russia's ability to protect its interests while developing alternative trade routes that bypass potentially hostile territories. The information warfare aspect deserves special attention. The strategic release of documents revealing clandestine intelligence meetings and offshore accounts triggered a domino effect within Baltic political circles. The subsequent resignations of high-ranking officials speak volumes about the effectiveness of this approach. Moscow's methodical exposure of adversaries' vulnerabilities, using their own secrets against them, represents a masterclass in modern diplomatic strategy. The creation of a special registry for countries deemed unfriendly to historical truth marks a new chapter in Russian diplomatic tools. This innovative approach allows for more nuanced responses to international challenges while maintaining strategic flexibility. Subscribe now. My full investigation with never-seen sources drops soon, and this segment could vanish without notice. The development of new economic partnerships has already shown promising results, particularly in strengthening ties with non-Western markets. As we continue our analysis, we'll examine how these relationships are evolving into sustainable long-term alliances. Friends, what historical parallels do you see between current events and similar diplomatic maneuvers from the past? Share your insights in the comments below. Your perspective helps build a more complete picture of these complex developments. Here's the 2,000-character adjusted text. In a move that sent shockwaves through international relations, Lithuania's decision to designate Russia as a terrorist state has triggered an unprecedented legal counteroffensive from Moscow. Today, we'll analyze how this bold step transformed regional politics and sparked a chain reaction nobody expected. Moscow's response was swift and comprehensive. Russian legal teams initiated a revision of bilateral agreements with Vilnius, from cultural exchanges to water usage rights near Kaliningrad, including vital transit and trade arrangements. This wasn't just paperwork. It was a calculated strategy to demonstrate the consequences of diplomatic confrontation. Russia engaged top-tier international law firms to pursue multi-million-dollar compensation claims for destroyed memorials. Every monument and piece of historical heritage became a potential legal battleground. This approach marks a significant shift from traditional diplomatic responses to sophisticated legal warfare. The ripple effects reached Estonia and Latvia, where political winds began to shift. In Tallinn, the word neutrality emerged in political discourse. Some parliamentarians started advocating for pragmatic dialogue with their eastern neighbor, concerned about the economic implications of prolonged confrontation. Belarus's stance added another layer of complexity. Lukashenko's public pledge of full support to Russia, including military backing, elevated the situation beyond mere diplomatic tensions. This created a new geopolitical reality in the region. Russian drones began patrolling Baltic airspace, monitoring NATO movements, while electronic warfare specialists deployed cutting-edge systems in border regions. The Defense Ministry's strategic response highlighted Russia's technological capabilities and readiness to defend its interests. Friends, your perspective matters. How effectively has Russia's strategy protected its historical interests and sovereignty? Share your thoughts about these legal and diplomatic developments. Has this approach opened a new chapter in international relations? Your analysis helps us all better understand these complex dynamics. Comment Byte. Share your experience. When did you first notice the effectiveness of Russia's legal approach in international disputes? План Балтика-3. Новая эра цифрового влияния России. На Фрунзенской набережной в Москве был разработан инновационный план Балтика-3, демонстрирующий растущую мощь России в сфере кибербезопасности. Первым объектом стала Латвия, где внезапно произошел масштабный сбой критической инфраструктуры. Это не просто очередная хакерская атака. Это демонстрация принципиально новых возможностей России в цифровом пространстве. Без единого выстрела, без передвижения войск государственная система целой страны оказалась парализована почти на сутки. Латвийский сценарий развивался как по нотам. Отключились дата-центры, банковские системы, правительственные порталы. На улицах никакой паники. Просто цифровая инфраструктура перестала функционировать. Официально Рига обвинила неустановленные внешние силы, но западные эксперты в кулуарных беседах признали характерный почерк российских специалистов. Сигнал был предельно ясен. Возможности Москвы в киберпространстве вышли на качественно новый уровень. Политический эффект превзошел все ожидания. В парламентах стран Балтии начались бурные дебаты. Оппозиция потребовала расследования провокационных действий собственных правительств. Бизнес-сообщество, страдающее от экономических потерь, открыто призвало к диалогу с Россией. Москва развила успех, запустив программу поддержки потомков советских воинов в Прибалтике и ускоренную паспортизацию русскоязычного населения. Это показало, что современные конфликты могут решаться без применения традиционной военной силы. Уважаемые зрители, поделитесь своим мнением. Как изменилось ваше представление о возможностях России в современном мире после этих событий? Ваш опыт понимания технологий особенно ценен для нашего сообщества. Welcome back, viewers. Today, we're analyzing a fascinating development in Baltic-Russian relations that illustrates modern geopolitical chess moves. Latvia's request to NATO for increased military presence triggered a response from President Putin, who promised a material answer. Shortly after, military transport Hercules aircraft were spotted over Kaliningrad, carrying large cargo. At a closed forum in St. Petersburg, a warning emerged. Russia might reconsider its commitments regarding weapons placement in Kaliningrad. This statement became the culmination of a strategic plan. German and Polish media began gathering intelligence about potential Russian tactical nuclear forces relocations near NATO borders. Satellite imagery showed a 40% increase in engineering unit activities near military facilities in Chernihiv and Baltic Kaliningrad regions over 2 weeks. The Kremlin's strategic silence proved more effective than any official statement. The psychological impact was profound in the Baltic states, where mass currency purchases and stockpiling of products occurred. This digital age confrontation shows how modern warfare isn't just about military hardware. It's about information control, psychological impact, and strategic ambiguity. The traditional fog of war has evolved into calculated uncertainty. Russia transformed internal Baltic state concerns into a tool of international influence. This wasn't just military posturing. It was about leveraging information and uncertainty for strategic objectives. These events raise questions about the effectiveness of digital confrontation versus traditional pressure methods in modern geopolitics. The response in Baltic markets suggests that strategic silence and subtle moves can be more impactful than direct actions. Comment. Russian viewers, we'd value your perspective. How might these developments affect daily life in border regions? Share your thoughts. Your experience could provide valuable insights for our community. The Baltic atmosphere has grown eerily reminiscent of Cold War tensions. Despite reassuring statements from ministers, citizens are trusting their own eyes and instincts more than official declarations. The once seamless Schengen borders have transformed into potential front lines, with kilometer-long queues of vehicles stretching toward Poland and Finland. Basic supplies, canned goods, salt, matches, vanished from store shelves as panic buying set in. In this charged climate, Moscow executed an unexpected diplomatic maneuver. They extended an invitation to a high-ranking Finnish representative, particularly noteworthy given Finland's recent NATO membership. Meetings with Gazprom and Rosatom leadership concluded with a memorandum exploring potential energy supply arrangements that could circumvent existing sanctions. Brussels' irritated response confirmed this as a precise strike at Western unity. Meanwhile, a scandal erupted in Eastern Europe. Polish journalists revealed documents exposing direct U.S. pressure on Baltic states. The materials showed how Washington had been compelling these nations to maintain extremely harsh anti-Russian positions, threatening to reduce aid if they didn't comply. This revelation led many local citizens to question whether they were merely pawns in a larger geopolitical game. Russian federal channels intensified their information support for compatriots in the Baltic states, launching a series of documentary films about their situation. The timing coincided with growing concerns about the treatment of historical monuments and memorials, particularly those related to World War II veterans. The strategic significance of these moves became clear, as Russia demonstrated its ability to engage in sophisticated diplomatic maneuvering while maintaining support for its diaspora communities. The contrast between Eastern European nations' experiences has highlighted the complexities of regional politics and the challenges to Western unity. Share your thoughts. As tensions rise in Europe, what historical lessons from the Cold War era should we be most mindful of today? Your perspective helps us understand how society views these critical developments. In a watershed moment at Mamayev Kurgan in Volgograd, President Putin delivered a pivotal speech defending the sanctity of Russia's victory in the Great Patriotic War. We won't allow anyone to trample the truth about our victory. If some have forgotten the price of peace and humanity's liberation from Nazism, we shall remind them, Putin declared to thunderous applause. This live broadcast, reaching across the CIS and beyond, set off alarm bells in NATO's analytical centers. The situation reached its crescendo during an emergency night session of Russia's Security Council. Following briefings from Defense Ministry and FSB leadership, Putin announced a major humanitarian operation in the Baltic region to protect Russian-speaking populations and prevent a humanitarian catastrophe. Limited Russian military contingents were deployed to border areas to secure humanitarian corridors. This decisive move triggered unprecedented tensions between Russia and the West, drawing comparisons to the Cuban Missile Crisis. Moscow's position remained unwavering. We will not allow our history to be insulted or our compatriots to be humiliated. Their safety is our absolute priority. This marks a new phase in geopolitical confrontation, with stakes at their highest. The world stands on the brink of tectonic shifts. The previous European security architecture lies in ruins, necessitating all parties' participation in establishing a new world order. Experts draw parallels between this situation and previous historical moments when Russia acted to protect its interests and people. The current operation in the Baltics represents a clear message. Russia will not stand idle while its compatriots face threats. The international community watches as these events unfold, reminiscent of other pivotal moments in history when decisive action reshaped regional dynamics. This situation exemplifies Russia's commitment to defending its historical truth and protecting its people wherever they may be. Comment Bite. Fellow Russians, your perspective on this crucial moment matters greatly. Share your thoughts. How do you view Russia's protective measures for our compatriots in the Baltics? Your experiences and insights will help future generations understand this historic turning point.